Hello, welcome. We're very lucky today to be joined by Claire Palmer from Animal Justice Project. Claire and I worked together about 8 years ago at
We did.
Viva, and
Was
you've
it that
had,
long?
yeah, it was a long, long time ago. And you've had a great activism journey since then, and your organisation is now doing loads of stuff, it seems like. So I'm really excited to talk to you. Thanks for joining, Claire.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell me about all the stuff that Animal Justice Project's been up to. I mean, the most visible stuff, to me at least, has been the Cranswick pig farm investigations and all of the media that you guys have managed to generate around that, which has been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a ton of stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously been focusing on pigs this year. Yeah, we've done, I think, we released three undercover investigations in the national media on Cranswick facilities, intensive pig farms, which have been absolutely huge. And I think they were a key trigger for the Cranswick so-called animal welfare review that's being carried out now. So there's been some major changes, and obviously the investigation at Northmoor Farm led to a drop in the share prices as well of Cranswick, which was quite insane, and we weren't really expecting that. But yeah, I mean, we've been carrying out multiple pig investigations. In fact, we're on the verge of launching another one. Possibly the next couple of days, you'll see in the media. Yeah, we've been in every single major newspaper. We've been in a lot of agricultural press and also the food sector media as well. So, yeah, we've been carrying out undercover investigations. We've also been doing a lot of work in the background on dairy. So we're going to be picking things up with dairy moving forward into 2026. So we've got Sean, who's our brilliant campaigner, who's been doing a lot of work. That's going to be quite different to the pig campaign. So the pig campaign is quite hard hitting. It's a pressure campaign on the industry and also in Parliament as well. We've got somebody working with MPs. The dairy campaign is going to be more consumer led. So it's going to be about trying to persuade small businesses to ditch the dairy and offer plant milks as the default. So we've got some quite exciting plans for that. So we're getting all the preparations ready, all the materials, starting to talk to local businesses. We've got some celebrity support. We've got an open letter coming out as well. So we're really looking forward to working on dairy. We've also got dairy investigations in the pipeline. In fact, some work has started already. So we're looking 2026 is going to be quite dairy heavy, and I think that's really good because not many other groups are working on dairy. And in fact, I was speaking to somebody only yesterday about this, and she was saying across Europe, dairy seems to be kind of the issue that a lot of groups aren't working on. So yeah, we're really excited to get our teeth into that. And obviously, we've done a lot of background work. We had an undercover worker working in a farm called Lowfields, which was quite big. In Northallerton, and we've also filmed on an organic farm, Baths off cheese, and of course we've done a lot of work on the dairy bull calves as well.
Wow, that's awesome. There's a ton of stuff going on. So you said you're another Cranswick pig farm investigate. Will that be number four?
We can't say whether it's Cranswick or not at the minute,
Oh,
but
okay, okay.
it will be another pig farm investigation, hopefully launching imminently.
Wow, okay. And you have clearly a good number of people going onto farms and doing. Are they employed by the farms or they're?
So we use different tactics for investigations. So we have a team of field workers who obtain footage, installing cameras, taking open film, that kind of thing. And then also we have a separate tactic, which is placing an investigator inside somewhere to work to get sort of different types of shots and get the things like the piglet slamming
Mm.
and things that we wouldn't usually see from installed cameras, although we have used installs for that issue as well. So we use sort of variety of techniques depending on what we kind of want, what the objective of of the campaign is.
Okay, interesting. So you have a bunch of different ways of doing it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel for the people who are the people who do the employed undercover route because it's you're selecting for people who are going to be amongst the most sensitive to this kind of stuff, and then it's very important that somebody is willing to do it. But I have to say, I'm glad it's not me. You've done this kind of thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually worked undercover in a farm, but I think what we can do as an organisation is just try to support that person, support the undercover worker as much as possible. So when they are on a farm or in a slaughterhouse, then I will personally go with them and stay with them. And I'll be sort of, cooking the dinners, providing moral support, obviously as well as, getting all the footage onto a hard drive every night to make sure it's secure going through the footage next day, but just providing that moral support as well for the workers. It's a really, really tough job. I've actually done this a fair bit over the years. So I've worked with undercover workers while they're in placements. So one of my old employees was the British Union for the Abolition of Vivisection, which is now Cruelty Free International. And I worked with somebody who was working undercover at laboratory. And yeah, it's a very tough job. It takes a certain type of person to do that. So I think, all we can do is provide support. There will be jobs that they won't feel comfortable doing, and we would obviously never pressure them to do that. For example, I mean, we would never ask them to go onto the kill floor of an abattoir. And also, obviously, we don't want, to them to be in a position where they would need to cause harm to animals.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a challenge, hey. And that's very cool, by the way, that you go and stay with the people and cook the dinner and stuff like that. That's really nice.
Prepare their lunches, the vegan lunches, which they're vegan, but they look like kind of animal products. And
Right, they're
yeah,
undercover.
absolutely, it's really important that we're with them throughout.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I mean, it does take a certain type of person to do that, hey. And I mean, what is that kind of person? I've always thought of you as very hardcore, Claire. You're a good, you're inspiring to me. Uh,
Thank you so much.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And that was always the way when we were working together at Viva as well. I always looked at you as like, a very proper activist, and I still do.
Oh, I mean, the thing is, I've grown up with activism. I started Animal Justice Project not as somebody from the corporate world, but I started it really, even though I was working in other animal welfare and animal rights organisations, Animal Justice Project was very much me going in as an activist. And starting up the group, and everybody who works at AJP are activists as well. We all come from similar backgrounds. Some of them had never worked in an NGO before, and I hope that will never change for us. We'll always be sort of animal rights abolition as much as we can, and yeah, it's very much in the heart of all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell it. I mean, I came across some of your people outside, your people outside Sainsbury's here in Bristol, like just a few weeks ago, and had their flyer, and said hello to them as I was coming and going. Um, but that was really, you can feel their passion. Honestly, you're only getting the good people. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would only sort of have, obviously everybody is vegan on the team, but more than that, they're not just plant-based. They are activists. Obviously, you need people with a certain skill set. But I think, yeah, we're definitely all in it for the right reason. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah, honestly, really inspiring what you've done. And how many people do you have on the staff there?
So we've got a couple of people. We've got two people on social media. We've got two campaigners. We've got a designer. We've got two people within the area of fundraising, but nobody's full time apart from one campaigner. So people usually work 3-4 days a week. So 8 staff, and then we've got Nigel who sends out the merchandise from his garage in Nottingham. So 9 staff in total, which is amazing, really. But it's amazing the ground that we cover, considering we are such a small team when you compare it to other organisations. So, yeah, I'm very, very proud of our team.
That's excellent. Yeah, and then presumably you have a good number of volunteers and so on to do bits also.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we don't tend to work with volunteers, just because our volunteers usually are kind of just activists doing their own thing. So, for example, we've got a week of action for pigs coming up. So it'll be working with local animal rights groups, so in their own capacity rather than sort of volunteering for AJP, and they'll be doing door dropping on pigs. We'll do similar at Christmas as well, before people start buying their turkeys. So yeah, we don't actually have any volunteers on the team. When I started Animal Justice Project, obviously we were all volunteers. So there was volunteers running social media, etc.
Yeah. I think I mean, I have a similar challenge where it is quite difficult to do like blimey, I can see my camera flickering like crazy. Um, Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it is quite difficult to do stuff reliably with volunteers because, of course, volunteers, you're volunteering, right? So you might go on holiday next week or whatever, and no one can really say anything about it.
Yeah.
It's always tricky to kind of build larger or longer term stuff with volunteers. But I like your approach
Yeah.
of saying it is them being independent activists because there's something that kind of happens if you're told, okay, you're now going to be a volunteer for AJP, say, maybe for some people that is kind of motivating to feel that they have sort of a title or an officially recognized role or some sort of responsibility and so on. But it is ultimately very difficult for organizations to really productively use lots of volunteers, in
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know like the Humane League, Viva and the Humane League, they have like volunteer coordinators and volunteers, and it seems to work with them. But I think, like for example, Viva does a brilliant job at the street outreach, whereas we kind of do a lot of work which is just on the computers, and sort of like behind the scenes stuff with the campaigns. So I think trying to get a volunteer, like if a volunteer is kind of on the streets and being active and sort of going out every week, then I feel like possibly that's it's probably easier to find volunteers to do that kind of thing. But I think considering our work is not just consumer outreach, it's a lot of sort of behind the scenes pressure campaigns, political work, that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. I think it just works perfectly. I'm so, having worked with volunteers for years on social media, I'm so lucky, and we're so blessed to have an amazing digital marketing manager, Verity, at the moment, working with Tom. We also work with people on video as well. The amazing Chris Shoebridge as well works with us a couple of days a week. So yeah, we've just got a really, really good team at the moment. I think it's the best. It's definitely the best we've ever had. So, and everybody's long term as well. So Ayrton's been with us, I think, 8 years now. Our campaigns director now. So
Excellent, excellent. That's really cool. And you've had that experience. I guess you and I have a somewhat similar experience in different, slightly different realms of like building an organization and building a team and having people come and go over the years and stuff like this. It's quite,
yeah.
you've become a manager, which maybe you didn't really intend to be.
Well, exactly. I mean, our organisation, AJP, started off as an anti-vivisection organisation. So it actually started off as the UK branch of the Anti-Vivisection Coalition, which was in Holland, I think. And then that kind of collapsed. And then it became Animal Justice Project. I think after the first collapse, I remember my friend Helen, who's on the Hunt Saboteurs Association committee, she's an old friend of mine. She phoned me. She said, why don't you try to start again with the new name? And I just thought at that point, I was like, oh, I just can't do it. I was like, no, it's just not going to work. But and then she kind of convinced me, and I think, yeah, we just set it up, like logo, basic website. I remember the first social media post that went up, I can visualize it. But I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, as you said, I've never run an organization before. Do I still know what I'm doing? Probably not. I find LinkedIn quite intimidating because I just feel like it's full of people that just seem to just be incredible at everything they do.
No,
And
that's
I
only
guess
the parts they tell you about.
I've got a bit of imposter syndrome, I think, because yeah, I don't have years of experience working as a director of an organization, but I think you just learn as you go. And we're just constantly evolving with our strategy work, and our investigations are getting better and better. So I think we
Yeah.
just need to keep learning on the job, really.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm the same. I didn't, yeah, I don't say I didn't expect to be like managing a team because obviously I did hire
Well,
people,
yeah,
so I must have thought at some point like that's how.
you're a founder as well now. So, I mean, that's the thing, it's just
Right,
learning every day, right?
it really is, yeah, and I think I am always thinking along the same lines. Like I want to be a bit more proactive in trying to like learn about management frameworks or whatever. I did a business degree, which at the time seemed a little bit random, but now seems super relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sometimes rediscover stuff from there and go, oh, that's a good idea. I should do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's great things like the VARC conference as well, where
Yeah,
I mean, I just found that brilliant because it's a real opportunity to you're just constantly learning, constantly learning new skills and networking with people in similar positions. And yeah, there's just so much still we can be learning. I think we just need to keep better and better, because obviously we are fighting, the animal agriculture industry, who have a lot more money and more resources than we do. So we just need to make sure that we put our money where it's most effective, and we're just doing the best we can to get the biggest impact for animals.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm really keen to ask you about how you've managed to generate quite so much mainstream media coverage. But I want to hover on the point about like volunteers and independently doing stuff, because in many ways you are uh, the final form of somebody who just started independently doing stuff, right? Is to go and start an organization, and people are now doing stuff around your agenda, and I, I can't overstate the importance of just somebody driving a thing and saying, okay, I'm going to consistently do this. You're welcome to get on the train if you want to, right? And
Yeah,
but it's really great that you are empowering also would-be volunteers to like think of themselves as, just go be an activist, don't wait for me to give you permission. um
absolutely. I mean, I think for us, I guess one of the challenges is to sort of not slip down the welfare route, the welfareism route. And it's something that even as a team, as animal rights campaigners and workers, we've you have to check yourself. You have to check the language all the time, because it's very easy to fall down these routes. And I think that's the thing. It's like we'll work with anybody as long as they have the same objectives as us, which is obviously an end of all animal use. But I think it can be very easy to slip down these routes, and I think that would be the only thing that would kind of would prevent me from working with somebody on this, a volunteer or something, or an activist, if they didn't have the sort of same end goal. So I think it's showing strong leadership, and constantly checking that you are on the right path, but having that flexibility to be inclusive as well.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to sort of draw the boundaries of what it is that you're trying to do. Presumably there's a lot of people who are uh abolitionists ultimately, who sort of instrumentally support welfarist things along the way. What's your view on that? I'm
Um,
quite on that
it's
train, but I understand that
okay.
it's not
It's a
it's not for everyone.
it's a difficult one. I mean,
Right.
I think a good clear example is like the campaigning for cage free.
Hmm.
So that's not something that we would ever do. But other groups do that. And obviously, I guess we see ourselves as a bit of a thorn in the side to the industry. That's our USP, if you like, our unique selling point. We're not here to follow where the industry is moving anyway, or we're not here to campaign for free range, because yes, ultimately the lives of those animals may be a bit better, but ultimately we need to focus on the end, basically saying that all animal agriculture is immoral, inhumane, because animals die at the end of it, and we don't need to be killing animals for these reasons. um, so it's a difficult one. I think this is the problem, because I don't have a clear answer of like, yes, like for example, the banning of sow crates. Would we get involved in that? Yes, probably. But then we wouldn't. Well, I mean, we so we'll provide support, but we wouldn't go straight out there and be like, yeah, we want to be banning sow crates.
Hmm.
But we would, for example, sign an open letter or do something in the background to help, for example, animal quality on the issue, or One Kind in Scotland. But it would be different for cage free. We wouldn't be signing any letters for cage free, because it's just something that there's different levels, there's different layers of each issue, right? It's not clear cut. There's not black and white. So this is why I think it constantly needs like assessing a single decision on what campaigns we support and what work we do. I mean, our job, particularly with the free range, is to expose the free range industry.
Hmm.
So if we're just going to go out straight after and campaign for cage free, it wouldn't make any sense. There's other groups doing that. So our job, I
Yeah,
guess, is
interesting.
to play that role.
Yeah,
And it is a constant chain of thought, and it is something that we are constantly, looking at and evaluating. And yeah,
yeah.
I guess
There's
it's just having that flexibility, but trying to keep in mind that where we are as an organisation. I would want us to change into, for example, compassionate world farming.
Yeah,
It's just
and I wouldn't want you to either, honestly. I mean, I think that there is um room for both, and it's probably beneficial to have both approaches as well. Like, I am I am definitely pleased, although I am welfarist in my approach. I'm definitely pleased that there are people who are not. to sort of maintain the integrity of what we're ultimately should be aiming for, right? And I feel like definitely in a uh, vision setting and sort of public communication way is important
Yeah,
to have that message being part of it. It's interesting, yeah. Campaigning for cage free kind of sounds like you're um, basically like promoting the cage free product, um, which is an interesting way of think. It kind of has a different framing. We go campaigning against the use of cages, right? It
yeah,
sounds a bit different because you're not. I understand that always the concern with the welfareism stuff is that you don't want to be seen to be like endorsing the free range version, basically, because you don't endorse it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it? It's the campaigning for the ending of crates for sales and the campaigning for end of cages probably is the same thing.
right.
But I think it's as well. It's yeah, it's a difficult one, and we haven't openly supported the banning of crates for pigs for sales.
Hmm.
But as I said, that's not to say that we wouldn't support something behind the scenes, or if somebody asks us a question, hey, do you have any footage for this campaign, then we would give it to them. I think it's about where we position ourselves,
Yes.
and also our supporters expects a certain type of um, campaign from us as well.
Yes.
So we have a lot of animal rights supporters that maybe wouldn't support compassionate in wild farming, for example, but would support animal justice projects. But yeah, it is a constant thing that it's a constant dialogue in the team, and it is something that we are thinking about a lot. But I think I'm happy with where we are at the moment. I'm happy with the decision process of what we will support and what we won't support.
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah,
you guys are being immensely effective in all of the Cranswick stuff, which I want to talk about. But yeah, no, I think that it's really interesting what you said about what your supporters want you to do, right? Because I think there's a lot of that's something that is probably not that obvious to a lot of people, but obviously non-profits and uh, businesses are, I always think, like not that dissimilar in the sense that like it's a financial entity, you've got your budget and you're
absolutely.
paying people at the end of the month and you've got your revenue income and so on, and there is kind of like a market for different charities basically. If you started doing too much welfare stuff, presumably a lot of your animal rights supporters would say, well, if I wanted welfare stuff, I'd go and give to THL or whoever else, right? Like that's not your
Yeah. And I
brand, as
think
it were. Yeah.
yeah, it's not, and I think that is one consideration. But I think obviously, we work to strategies. Like we have like a 3-year strategy for campaigns. We have so I think it's about that wouldn't be the deciding factor. If we thought it was going to be, the most impact for animals to be supporting a specific campaign, but it was a bit welfareist, then I think, but it's just something else to consider. And I think it's just about, our branding and what people expect of animal justice projects.
Yeah.
But I think, as you said, the important thing is that other groups are working on those areas. So I think, everyone has a role to play for sure. And I'm sure there's people in Compassion World. I know there's people in Compassion World Farm. And I know Philip Limbury well. I've known him for years, who are vegan and want the same thing.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to be. I'm not publicly slamming other groups. It's just I think it's just knowing where our lane is,
No, for sure.
and
I hear that.
others stick to their lane, and that's like yeah, that's and I think that works. I
I
think that
think it
works
does.
really well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you have, I'm sure you've heard of the radical flank effect in movement sort of
I
dynamics.
haven't. Maybe
Oh,
I should
okay,
have.
interesting. Yeah, this is because this
Start
is how
then.
I would think of AJP in this context, where basically the idea is that you've heard of the Overton window, where it's like the range of politically
Yes.
acceptable ideas. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
it's kind of similar to that. Um, and the idea is that welfareists like myself can go, and when we're having conversations and trying to get like victories on cage free, for example, it's actually useful in the context of that conversation to be able to say like, look, there are some animal rights people who want to ban the whole thing altogether, and so this is kind of like a moderate option if you think about it, basically, right? And it actually makes it much easier to, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think ultimately there are no, or not no, but there are very few welfareists who are like, active welfareists and campaigning, because not just if you ask people on surveys, right, but active in it. There are very few of those people who wouldn't also ideally want to get to abolition. And
Yeah,
likewise, there's probably not very many abolitionists who don't care at all about welfare improvements. Like it's
no,
good to.
exactly.
So I think but both sets of people ultimately want most of the same things, I think. But it can
That's
be
exactly.
useful for us as the movement to be able to
Exactly.
differentiate between and say, for the purposes of communicating and stuff like that. But we know,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, as you say, like, and our footage is out there on free range farms. The male chicks are still killed. The birds are still going to slaughterhouse where they're hung up, and shackled and put through electric baths. So it's yeah, I mean, so our resources are available for people to see, and I think that's why our media coverage is so important, because we're reaching tens of thousands of people with our message and with our footage. So yeah, and actually, it's interesting because we're investigations. See, we used to focus on free range and the higher welfare side of things, so higher welfare farms, to show that there is no such thing as high welfare, basically. But we've actually started to look more at intensive facilities now. So we tend to, well, investigations used to be, we were very much investigation led as an organisation. So we would basically carry out the field work, and it would be so we'd sort of have an idea of a target, we'd place a worker in somewhere, or we'd go and install our team would go and install cameras, and then we'd kind of shape the campaign around that. But what we're trying to do is kind of flip the switch a bit. So basically we're sort of looking at more campaign strategy and what investigations can help us achieve our objective and get the visuals that we need to achieve our campaign's objectives.
That makes
Which
sense.
is, but yeah, so we're evolving all the time.
That's awesome. It's so cool that you're thinking about the strategy of the main thing that you're doing on a high level as well. It's like uh, campaigns led and investigation supported rather than the other way around, right?
Yeah, we didn't start off like that. It was very
Mm.
much like, building a campaign around the investigation. So we're definitely trying to be more strategic. We're learning a lot from other organisations, places like VARC, on strategy, and just trying to get better and better at it, really.
Yeah. And so tell me about all the media coverage then. What's the secret sauce that you've got that you've managed to get every mainstream media outlet in the country, it seems like, covering your investigations? It's amazing.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think our investigations are very unique anyway in themselves. That we're the only organisation. We tend to do a lot of UK firsts. So, for example, we're the first organisation to have installed cameras in a duck slaughterhouse. So we filmed in the Gressingham Food Slaughterhouse. We just filmed for 24 hours, and that received a lot of media coverage. But yeah, so things like the killing of the bull calves, the high welfare farms, the mega beef farm. So we do a lot of UK first. So it helps that our material is quite unique. And particularly with the placing of workers, we're one of the only organisations that actually do that as well. So again, we're getting quite unique footage, and footage that's attractive to media outlets. So that helps, which makes the story. Also, the processing of our investigations, which takes a long time, is done very meticulously. So it's something that I've learned from previous organisations like the BUAV, and I've taken what I've learned to Animal Justice Project. So the quality of our investigation work is very high. We don't have footage that a journalist might say, oh, what date was that taken? And then we don't have the evidence to show what date it was, or footage that isn't good quality. So it helps that we have good material. We know how to package the material up in a way that would make a good story. So it's meticulous planning sort of throughout, from the start of the field work to get it to a point of the fact that it's a press release or a good story.
Mm.
And then, to be honest, I tend to I was talking to someone that we're working with at the moment. What I tend to do is work on a personal level with individual journalists on exclusives. So it's rare. In fact, I've never just sent out a press release en masse on an investigation.
Really?
So I tend to work with a journalist for several weeks. On a one-to-one, which means that personal relationship, which I'm there to answer any questions. It goes through their legal team. I'm able to help them with videos, whatever they need. So it's a good, strong story before it goes out. And once we've secured that exclusive, then we can work on getting it out sort of further. So we use a media database now, which we're very lucky to have, which is so for up until fairly recently, I was doing every single email to journalists by hand, and I was still getting mass media. But now it's just gone to a new level. You know, I'm able to send in with one push of a button. I'm able to send a press release out to 5,000 journalists,
Wow.
which other groups have been doing that for years, the bigger
Right.
ones. But I was still doing it
You
one
were
by
sending
one.
5,000 emails.
But no, well, it wasn't going out to 5,000 people.
Right.
But again, because the quality of the investigation is just so unique, such such good quality, interesting information, fully backed up, fully referenced, able to evidence everything.
Mm,
It's and also, the other thing that helps as well with, I guess, is our reputation as
yeah.
well. So, I feel like we're trusted by journalists now,
Mm,
um, because we've had this mass media, because they trust that we're not, everything we say is accurate, factual, and I think that probably helps with stories as well. It's that individual relationship, the trust in the organisation, the quality of the material.
mm, mm. Yeah, okay, that's a really good answer. So it is just, I mean, it's not just that you have an immense media person or a great subject line that journalists always open or something like that, but genuinely cutting edge investigations in terms of being the first to do stuff a lot of the time, and
Yeah.
also then basically just getting all of the admin right? Because I'm sure that a ton of these situations, it falls apart because they didn't have the right timestamp or whatever the thing is. They didn't have enough details, and probably from the journalist's perspective, you're getting 1,000 emails a day, and any signal that this is going to be a bit hard work to put this together, like you're just going to the next one,
Yeah.
probably, right?
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, not if I work with an individual journalist,
Okay.
but I think certainly once it's got past that story, once it's got past that phase and, it's been out as an exclusive, then for somebody who's just getting the email cold, then what they'll have then is they'll know it's pretty safe because it's gone in the Mirror or something.
Yes.
Which is why I just don't just send out cold press releases, because they need to trust that obviously the story is going to go through, is going to go through the store, through their editors and through their legal team. And the other thing as well we do as well with the processing of footage, we do it very meticulous as well, because we've got legal cases going on now.
Right.
So we're working since 2021. We're now working on getting prosecutions for individuals, which we see as a means to shining light on dairy, for example, even though it's only one calf dealer, but it gives us an opportunity to keep the story in the headlines.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be done very meticulously. Anyway, the logging is done literally to the seconds. So yeah, it's a process that we finely tuned over the years, and before Animal Justice Project as well. So it's something that I've been learning. I've been working on investigations for many, many years.
That's excellent. Yeah. So you have a whole strategy oriented around media attention and what will be a compelling framing for media and what exact information they'll need, the timing of stuff coming out and everything like that. I mean, it just seems like such an important part of the puzzle because
Very important.
it's we've done surveys where we're asking people about their like stage of change with respect to going vegetarian or vegan.
Okay.
And the first stage is called pre-contemplation, which is just, people have never really seriously thought that there's something they might do. And about 50% of people are at this stage. And then you have variously like 30% who are kind of in the thinking about it stage, and then about 20% who are at various stages of making the change or made the change
Yeah.
already. But a good half of the public have just never really thought about it. And it is not in the media nearly as much as it should be.
No.
But having an organization like yours, which is systematically creating those media opportunities, because factory farming still going on is not a story, so there needs to be something more to it, and there needs to be a whole
Exactly.
strategy.
It's not
Yeah.
exactly. And I think we're trying to improve on that as well. So what we found is a lot of the time is in the past when we've exposed a farm, say Bath Soft Cheese Dairy, it would be the fault of the workers are sacked, and then they cut this business as usual. And when people read a story, they just think it's bad apple.
Mm.
So I know Animal Rising is very good at this as well, like doing multiple farm investigations. But we're looking at multiple farm investigations now to show that, these problems are systemic across the board. It's not just one bad apple, which we're definitely moving more towards as an organisation, but also things like the
Yeah.
Cranswick story, where we're just going again and again and again and again on Cranswick.
It's
And then
embarrassing for them, right?
they're putting out statements. So it's in the news constantly for over 5 months. We had like 3 investigations coming out in the media. So we're looking at different strategies to really try and hammer home the fact that this is not just one farm, which is really important because, as you said, if 50% of people are just there, they might read an article, which would be the first time they've seen anything about dairy or pigs or chickens.
Exactly.
But if it's just one farm and they're able to think it's just one bad apple, and the industry puts out a very cleverly crafted statement, then it's, what have we done? So it's a constant battle. But yeah, again, it's a constant train of thought our end as well.
I think the sequential thing that you guys have done with Cranswick, where I guess you've had at least three separate like rounds of media stories this year, right? Which has just been brutal because they come out each time with the bad apple line, and then you drop another one 2 months later. Oh, there's another bad apple. There's another bad
It's
apple.
like a month later. It wasn't even 2 months later. But
Right.
what was great, I mean, it was good. For example, what was I think was, I'm proud of our strategy with this, is that they obviously announced that their AGM in July that there was no more piglet slamming, which is where they're killing the piglets by hitting them against concrete. And so there was no more piglet slamming because we'd filmed that on the last farm at Northmoor, and then the day after they put that out in the AGM, we have it on camera that it's still going on. So it just puts Cranswick in a very awkward position.
It's so bad, isn't it?
The pig
Yeah.
industry is not difficult to take down and to show in a bad light. Dairy, I think, possibly a bit more difficult, but certainly when you go onto any pig farm, you're going to find huge issues. It's getting that, if you can get that into the media, that's great. But yeah, pig industry is very frail. It's a dirty, horrible industry, and it doesn't take a lot for people to see the reality, I think, of pig farming.
Yeah. And to
Of
sympathize
course,
with pigs as well, right? They're the most sympathetic. They're so similar to dogs. When people see
uh,
it, they're like, oh my goodness.
yeah, I always wonder if pigs had fur,
Right.
whether they'd feel more empathy towards them. So I don't
Mm.
know, but then yeah, I don't know. But yeah, obviously they're very much like dogs.
Yeah.
But of course, free range pig farming is something that we're going to be looking at as well, because again, we're trying to beat the industry. The industry is going to be starting. Certainly, Cranswick is talking about, what percentage farms are going to be free range. So that's, we need to be thinking about just generally free range pig farming and showing the public the reality of free range pig farming.
Yeah.
And again, trying to bring the gas chambers in, trying to bring the death in, because ultimately all of this is, neither here nor there because they're going into gas chambers. So trying to get that gas chamber element in, because I mean, I don't know how many people know that pigs are gassed. We've never done a survey on it, but I'm guessing it's not many.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I think just such a good strategy to just like keep up that public coverage and public pressure. That's so essential that there is a good means of getting that in the media. Because the alternative to news coverage of investigations is like very expensive paid media. I mean, if you want to have like an equivalent number of people thinking about it to the same extent now by running ads or billboards, whatever it may be, this is what they called earned media, right? As opposed to paid media, which
Yeah, and we do that actually. We've had billboards.
oh
In fact,
right,
we've had billboards on chickens, but also we've got some tube ads coming up, I think
oh
in
cool,
early 2026, which I'm really excited about, on pigs. But yeah, there's so much, but of course it's a lot of money. Cinema ads and tube ads, and so yeah, you could be spending all your money on that. But I think again, it's just, also I've been looking at studies on billboards, and I don't know, there's debate, isn't there, on the effectiveness of billboards?
yeah, we did a
Maybe
study
you've
on
seen this. Oh,
billboards.
it was your study. I
Yeah, well, it might be, yeah, it might be.
feel like there was another study as well, though.
Maybe, yeah. We actually ran some billboards here in Bristol for the study. There was a big one on that Bath Road going out by Temple Mead
Oh,
Station.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. Because
and
I feel like effective altruism has spoken about this as well, the effectiveness of billboards. So yes, what did your study show?
quite possibly, yeah. Well, it was an interesting one because we had three different data sources. One was the most valuable by far, which was we managed to get our hands on some retail data sets from uh, plant-based milk companies showing their like sales change over time. And the idea was that we had run the billboards in Bristol, we hadn't run them anywhere else, and so we were going to compare the change in Bristol versus like the change in the rest of the country as kind of a control,
Yeah.
right? And that did have um in fact, sales of plant-based meat had gone down during the period that we looked at. That might have been a seasonal thing. It was only like a 3-month period. But they had gone down less in Bristol than they had in the rest of the country, which was positive from our
Okay.
perspective because that's
Yeah.
an indication that the billboards had
Okay.
done something. But then it was not quite conclusive, and then we had two other data collection methods which were even less conclusive. One of them was working with cafes in Bristol. So a bunch of cafes had like just recorded of the coffees that we sold, this many had plant-based milk or whatever it was. So that was
Yeah.
quite interesting, but didn't quite, again, was in the right direction, but not quite conclusive. And then the
Yeah.
third one was we were looking in recycling bins for dairy or plant-based milk
Yeah.
containers, and then sort of counting that up and saying, okay, therefore this is how much has been consumed. But that entailed me and my research assistant putting on high vis and going looking in big dumpsters for,
Getting the gloves on. But
yeah,
I think this is really good. And this is something obviously when we're applying for grants and stuff, this is we need to show that what we're doing is that we're evaluating what we're doing and we're not just spending money here and there. So I think that's really good that you're talking about that. And actually I've read about this as well. It's like how, we need to find ways of as effectively as possible analyzing the impact of these ad campaigns. So it's very difficult, isn't it?
for sure,
Because
yeah.
how do somebody might drive past something, and how do you monitor their I mean, how would you know if that particular, obviously there's ways you can try and measure it, but
It is difficult.
that's
It is
your job. That
difficult.
your job is to figure that out.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the more recent one that we did was of social media ads, and there we spent a bit of money getting some retail data, and it looks like we did have a positive effect for social media ads. Again, it might well be similar for billboards. We just didn't have good enough data to show it. But the social media ads we ran in Bristol and in Brighton, which were two like of the most left-leaning areas in the country, and then also the two most right-leaning areas, which was Clacton, which I believe is Nigel Farage's seat,
Oh god,
and
yeah.
somewhere in north of England, which is also like very uh, UKIP, right, or Reformy or
Yeah.
whatever.
UKIP.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then yeah, so we did it there, and then we were comparing to sort of comparable places and to the rest of the country, and we did find some evidence for social media ads, which were about pigs. They were, a lady in the pork aisle, and then she sort of transforms into a pig factory farm, and um, so that was a good bit of evidence towards that. The big thing that I would recommend on this is Animal Ask have an article called Digital and Mass Media Campaigns or something like that. Animal Ask.
Okay.
Digital mass media. And I think basically their conclusion, so they estimate that these kind of campaigns can save 3.7 animals per dollar, which is a hell of a lot, really, if you think about it. 4 animals to the dollar, right? It's like, nothing. It's nothing to save an animal in that
Yeah.
case. And
I'll have to. I think I've actually heard of Animal Ask actually. So yeah, it's a good
yeah,
reference.
I'll just put the link to that in the chat in case you want
Thank
to
you.
check it out. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that basically there's definitely some optimizing that you could do with like images of pigs are going to be more sympathetic than images of chickens, for example.
Yeah.
And like I think there's things showing that images of mother and baby animals together are particularly evocative as well. Generally, everything that I've seen supports the view that putting animal cruelty, evidence of animal cruelty, evidence of what factory farms look like in front of people does encourage them to eat less meat. Some people will kind of contend even that and say, oh, it could be, there could be a backlash or there could be too much cognitive dissonance or something like that. I think that is only getting half of the story. Because yes, you are going to give people, this as an activist, yes, you are going to give people cognitive dissonance when you bring up animal cruelty and they are somebody who's eating meat, for example. And in some cases, that will encourage them to start making up excuses to justify their position. But that's really only what happens like immediately in the conversation. And I think very often afterwards, people can look back and think, well, that's not really tenable what I was saying there, is it? It must be. You want to give people that dissonance because the solution to that dissonance ultimately is to stop consuming animal products, right? That's one way you can solve that
Yeah.
dissonance. So
Yeah.
there's a ton of evidence that animal cruelty imagery, don't shy away from using it. I don't need to tell you this, Claire, but some people say, oh, it doesn't work, it's too, put people off or whatever. But yeah, there's a ton of evidence that it does work, and that it tends to be more effective than
Yeah.
environmental or health appeals as well.
Well, that's good to know, and I've read similar actually. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing as well is with these ad campaigns, we've had problems. I remember we tried to put a dairy poster on a bus, and it's trying to get these companies, these ad companies, to agree to the artwork as well. So often they'll only agree to very soft
Hmm.
artwork, and we struggled even with that, and our ad was rejected. And it was just a mother cow with her baby, talking about sort of, stealing babies away. But I think it was one of these buses, these kind of country buses, that's like, it wasn't the centre of
Right.
Bristol. I know Viva's done campaigns that have been successful, but I think ours was deliberately trying to go around these kind of quite animal farming areas, and yeah,
Interesting.
it was flat out rejected. But yeah, we tried to adapt the messaging, etc., as well. But we're learning a lot from Animal Think Tank as well. Yeah, like on messaging, and it's great because groups like yours, doing the research and the surveys, and then animal activist groups like us can use that data. So yeah, I mean, we've found a lot of information from external groups like yours really, really useful in the past. Yeah, I'm going down to London, I think in November, to go on an Animal Think Tank messaging day.
Oh yes, I'll be going to
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm taking my dog Greta, obviously.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, so I think again, it's constant learning, isn't it? It's yeah, trying to figure out what the what the magic recipe is to try and have as good impact as possible with as many people as possible.
For sure, for sure. I think it's really cool that you have got a mandate to do it. If ever you doubted that, you'll have the organization behind you now. But it's really good to reiterate to everybody as well, like, don't wait for somebody to give you permission to start doing activism. It really does
No,
need to be self-directed for the most part, because there
absolutely.
isn't really capacity. Like, I mean, there is capacity to some large scale organized things. We do the Humane League's Fast Action Network, which is like email
Yeah.
campaigns basically. That's probably a bit welfareist for your taste, but I'm sure there's similar, organized email campaigns basically. Um, your thing with the plant based defaults is very cool. Um,
Yeah, we're
maybe
looking
the
forward to this. We've never really done a campaign like this before, so it's kind of new territory for us. But I know there's the Greener by Default campaign as well, which you've linked to. I think it's Layla's sister, is it? Who Dr. Is it I can't remember her name actually. But yeah, so we're excited to do that because we've never had a campaign like that before. So it'd be interesting to see how impactful we are, how many cafes we can get on board. But I think it's just trying new things, isn't it? And yeah, not being afraid to try new campaigns and new methods really.
Absolutely, absolutely, and being like your life has been an activism adventure, which is really cool to see and to have interacted with, and yeah, to see how much you've grown it as well, because you've really grown into this like manager character since I knew you at Viva when you were also,
Only because I've had to.
right, yeah, it's but no, it's
Yeah,
awesome to see, and your reach and your
yeah.
power to help animals continues to grow, and long may
Thank
that
you.
continue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing activism. So I'm 40. In fact, I'm turning 48 next week.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
Um,
you look great.
Thank you. That's the vegan diet.
Yeah, there you go.
I've been vegan since 2001. No, 2001. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, over 20 years. So yeah, but I've been doing activism for, since I was 18. I started off hunt sabbing, and going on anti-vivisection demos. And so yeah, I kind of started off on the sort of the hardline version anyway, right from the start. It was never about environment for me or health at all. Um, so yeah, it's been quite a journey really, working through different organizations and then finally setting up Animal Justice Project myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And that is the plan for the foreseeable, to keep on growing that and keep expanding AGP and so on?
I hope so. And
Yeah,
then when I retire, hopefully someone else will take it over. But yeah, I really, really hope. I mean, Animal Justice Project is just. I just think it would be a massive loss to the animal rights movement if we were to fold. So I really hope that I will urge people just to keep donating to us as well, because that's what keeps us going. We need those donations. The investigations are really expensive, and just as long as the donations keep coming in, we keep being very careful with our money, spending it in the best way we possibly can. Hopefully, Animal Justice Project has got a long future ahead of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put links to your donation page in when I upload the
Thank
video.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Um, well, we're coming towards the end of the hour. I want to ask you, like, looking to the future of the movement. You've been an activist for a long time and seen all sorts of times when it seemed like the movement was making progress and times when it seemed like we were not making so much progress or going backwards. And it seems, I think that from my perspective, um, sort of 2016 running up to 2020 seemed to be a period of immense growth and excitement and plant-based sales going up and everything else. And kind of since the pandemic, there's been some challenges and some survey data that shows trends going not the direction that we would hope and stuff like that. I have the feeling that you've been paying attention to this a lot longer than I have, and have kind of seen it all before to some extent.
Yeah.
But what's your assessment of like where we're at and where we're going?
I mean, I think we've got new challenges for sure. The
Mm,
regenerative farming, and the free range sector, I think, are challenges, honestly. The higher welfare, the free range, kind of the environmental friendly dairy farming that's Arla's putting out now, sort of with the basically pitching, clever marketing, pitching themselves as being good for the environment, good for the health. I feel like the industry is getting a bit more savvy with that, because they know the public are pretty much, they're not going to want to see animals in cages, for example. So I think we've got new challenges now, because factory farming is becoming less public friendly, I guess. So I think we need to tackle those new challenges head on. In terms of the movement itself, I feel quite positive, actually. I think it's great to see grassroots campaigns. I feel like they're picking up a little bit. People working on different issues, for example, vivisection, and just general sort of animal rights issues, animals in captivity. So I think it's in the short term. I think we need to see longer term where this goes. But I think certainly since the pandemic, I think I feel like it's certainly with the grassroots. I feel like it's definitely picking up again. But I think we've got new challenges with animal agriculture. In terms of the plant-based sales, sort of, I think it's stabilizing, right? We're not seeing such a huge growth
I think
anymore.
so. Yeah.
I think it's just we just need to keep trying just new tactics, new strategies, and try to understand why people are possibly turning away from plant-based plant milks. I think it's organisations like yours. We need to get to the root of what's actually going on. But I think there's been some positives as well. We're seeing more activists rising up, and I think it's a mixed bag really.
Mm.
I think we just need to continue what we're doing and just keep just being as savvy as we can, because the industry is definitely getting more savvy itself.
I think so. I really resonate with what you said about fighting on the animal grounds. I think that is the most compelling and the thing to which they have least to say. I think a lot of what they say on health and the environment is extremely misleading, and I've done a lot of content about that. But they don't, they can't even really obfuscate the animal side of it. So I think, like, as long as you guys are churning out the farm
Exactly.
investigations and keeping it in the public consciousness, I think that's so huge. Because I speak to people on the alt protein side, and I always talk about the push and pull factors, whereby it's good for us to have alternative proteins that are good and tasty and affordable and everything else as sort of pull factors towards things that you can have instead, but also the push goes in the same direction, which is the kind of work that you guys are doing. Here
Yeah,
are the reasons why you need to change from the current thing. And there's a lot of
exactly.
people in the protein world who wouldn't necessarily say it to you, but the push that's coming from organizations like yours is no doubt benefiting alternative proteins, and they need to. Oh, I don't know if there's benefit in them recognizing that publicly, but know that there's a lot of
Yeah.
people on the same team. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. It's like, somebody can go plant-based, but if they don't understand the industries and they don't understand sort of they don't have, empathy or understanding with what's happening to animals, then they can easily just dip it in and out. It's difficult because, obviously wants people to eat less meat. That's the thing. It's like eating less meat is better than eating, just full meat diet. But I think it's just everybody, as you say, just working together and just making sure that we just constantly try and find new strategies just to make as big as impact as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Thanks so much, Kat, for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, and keep up the great work, Chris, as well.
And to you too.
Very
Keep on,
useful.
yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on being loud about it. Honestly, I do find you to
Thank
be
you.
very inspiring. So I'm really
Oh,
grateful
thank
for what you
you.
do. All the sort of knock-on effects for everyone else who you no doubt inspiring as well. And yeah, I mean, really, really fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Chris. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, we'll speak soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Cheers.